The NBA world thought it had the Defensive Player of the Year race all figured out. For months, Victor Wembanyama looked like he was on a clear path to snatching the trophy, until everything crumbled when the 65-game eligibility rule took him out of contention. Suddenly, a massive prize became fair game for every rising defensive star with something to prove. And as usual, when chaos strikes, unexpected names come out of nowhere, ready to claim the spotlight. But beneath the surface, there are shocking contract incentives, heated rivalries, and a whole lot of chatter, especially from Draymond Green, drawing eyeballs to the final push for the league's most coveted defensive honor. Today, we're breaking down how it all happened, who's truly leading the pack, and why the entire NBA is buzzing about what might come next. Before we dive into how things started unraveling, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're into deep dives like this. We break down the biggest stories in basketball without the fluff, just facts, receipts, and a bit of chaos. And trust me, you're gonna want to see how this one ends. Now back to the video. Just a few months ago, the entire conversation about Defensive Player of the Year hinged on one name, Victor Wembanyama. Sportsbooks listed him at unbelievable odds, treating his victory as a formality rather than a real competition. It wasn't just hype. Wemby's block rate, length, and ability to guard anyone near the rim made it feel like he'd waltz away with the trophy. But sometimes, small details swing big doors. The league's new 65-game rule was designed to reward durability. If you can't meet that threshold, you're not eligible for major awards. So when Wemby was sidelined with a serious health scare, a blood clot of all things, the chase for Defensive Player of the Year was back to square one. Although no one wanted to see a young phenom face any kind of health issue, his misfortune instantly changed the conversation. Now, fans, analysts, and even players realized there were multiple contenders for this honor. Suddenly, the question wasn't which unstoppable defensive anchor would take it home. It was whether veterans with name recognition or up-and-coming stoppers, hungrier for their first big accolade, could steal the spotlight. And make no mistake, there's a fortune on the line. For certain players on rookie contracts or newly negotiated deals, a major award can trigger massive salary escalators. We're talking up to tens of millions of dollars in some cases. All of this set the stage for a scramble to the finish line. Each contender determined to stay healthy, produce nightly highlights, and avoid the same eligibility pitfalls that sidelined Wemby. But listen to this. Out in Cleveland, a quieter story had been simmering all along. Evan Mobley came into the league with superstar expectations. Analysts praised his rare combination of length, timing, and agility on defense. Yet in his first couple of seasons, Mobley's offensive development seemed slow, and some people wrote him off as just another above-average big man who'd never truly dominate. But this year, he flipped that narrative on its head. Offensively, Mobley became more aggressive, learned to finish with authority at the rim, and even showed glimpses of a long-range shot. His improvement was evident, but his real bread and butter remains his defense. From night to night, the Cavaliers trust him to do the dirty work, switch onto guards with freakish foot speed, protect the paint by blocking or altering shots, and generally erase mistakes whenever a perimeter defender gets beat. Statistically, it's easy to see his 1.6 blocks per game. What's harder to measure is how many shots opponents either hesitate to take or miss because they're forced to adjust around his massive wingspan. While Draymond Green can light up a microphone with his commentary, Mobley keeps his head down and simply does his job. No big theatrics, no viral sound bites, just rock-solid consistency. Sometimes that's not enough to drive a public narrative, but ask any Cleveland fan, and they'll tell you. Without Mobley's contributions on both ends, the Cavs wouldn't be clinging to a top spot in the East. Whether he gets the recognition he deserves is another matter entirely, and that's where the race turns into a battle not just on the court, but in the media as well. It gets even crazier. If you want to talk about media, you have to talk about Draymond Green. The guy knows how to use his platform like no other. Podcast episodes, post-game sound bites, on-court banter, Green dominates attention with his brash honesty and sense of humor. It's become almost cliche to say, but it really does help. Voters, fans, and casual viewers hear his voice making a case for himself, and they start paying closer attention. On top of the publicity, Draymond's had a few signature moments that hammered home his defensive prowess. From shutting down Giannis Antetokounmpo in crunch time to picking Luka Doncic's pocket at a game's deciding moment, he's built a highlight reel worthy of any award campaign. Even though Golden State went through rocky stretches, especially earlier in the season, Draymond's been the anchor holding together a sometimes shaky defensive unit. Still, some observers criticize his mid-season lulls. There were nights he looked disengaged, letting attackers blow by him or making half-hearted closeouts. Others argue that he only truly locked in when the Warriors pulled off a critical trade or when the media hype picked up. Draymond might say that's just the reality of an 82-game slog. You can't play all 48 minutes with the same intensity. But in an award race, voters remember the big plays on national TV. They remember a player's voice continuing to ring through every headline. And Draymond is a master of that kind of spotlight. And here's where things take an unexpected turn. Of course, Draymond Green and Evan Mobley aren't the only players making a push for the league's top defensive accolade. One intriguing name is Dyson Daniels, a young talent who people wrote off far too soon. The New Orleans Pelicans traded him away in a package that included Larry Nance Jr. and multiple first-round picks, believing they'd secured a massive upgrade by bringing in another star. But in Atlanta, Daniels found his stride, especially on defense, leading the NBA in steals per game, something rarely seen in a player so early in his career. Then there's Lou Dort in Oklahoma City, a perpetual fan favorite for his tenacious, bulldog-like approach on defense. Even though the Thunder's entire roster thrives on hustle and grit, Dort stands out for guarding the best scorers. The sticky part? Advanced metrics sometimes paint him in a confusing light, showing the defense dipping slightly with him on the floor. Critics argue it's because he takes on the toughest matchups, which artificially lowers his numbers. Supporters point to intangible impact, the intimidation factor and those highlight reel stops that energize the crowd. Behind the scenes, whispers circulate about lucrative contract bonuses, the pressure of playing for a new deal, or friction with front offices that want to see certain players prove it on the defensive end. Nothing is officially confirmed, but rumors alone can stir up enough conversation to boost or hurt a candidate's chances. Wait until you hear the next part. One major turning point for this year's Defensive Player of the Year narrative was the flurry of mid-season trades that shook up the league. The Warriors' acquisition of Jimmy Butler sparked one of the biggest transformations, instantly retooling their roster into a defensive force. Suddenly, Draymond Green wasn't battling alone in the paint. The entire vibe around Golden State changed from frantic desperation to cohesive intensity. That shift propelled the Warriors from near play-in territory up to a respectable playoff seed. Elsewhere, similar transformations reshuffled the board. The Cavaliers added complementary pieces to lighten Mobley's burden, allowing him to focus on the areas where he truly excels. Meanwhile, teams like the Lakers and Clippers tried to bolster their rosters with gritty defenders, hoping to replicate success stories from other squads. Some acquisitions panned out, others fizzled. But each mid-season transaction added another twist to an already unpredictable race. Lost in all these headline trades are the hidden contributors, role players who thrive on defense but remain anonymous to casual fans. They might not fill stat sheets or do press conferences, yet they're part of the reason certain teams catapulted into the top defensive rankings. Whether it's an unheralded rookie or a veteran ring chaser, these side stories reveal how deeply layered the defensive conversation really is. Yet there's another twist to this story. No other major NBA award is quite as tricky to pin down statistically as Defensive Player of the Year. We have basic metrics like blocks, steals, and defensive rating, but the real story is often hidden between the lines. Star defenders may scare opponents into shooting less or passing out of promising drives, making their real impact invisible on a stat sheet. As a result, a captivating narrative can mean everything when award season rolls around. We've seen this dynamic play out in years past. Tim Duncan, arguably one of the greatest post defenders of all time, never won Defensive Player of the Year. Scottie Pippen spent his prime locking up some of the most legendary perimeter scorers and never received the honor either. Then we have someone like Rudy Gobert, who racked up multiple DPOY trophies, largely because his advanced metrics screamed he was controlling games around the rim. It's a complicated puzzle, and the voters sometimes lean on memorable plays, media hype, or a new storyline to make that final call. Draymond Green is a master of controlling the narrative. He knows how to articulate not just what he does on defense, but why it should be recognized. Evan Mobley, in contrast, focuses on letting his game speak for itself. A modest approach that some might respect, yet hardly helps in the court of public opinion. The tension between these styles could be a deciding factor if the race stays tight until the season's final whistle. You'll never guess what happens next. All these players, from Draymond to Mobley and even dark horse contenders like Dyson Daniels, have glaring question marks. For Draymond, skeptics point to his multiple ejections, occasional lapses in effort, and that podcast hustle. suggesting he's more interested in building a personal brand than playing a complete season at maximum intensity. For Mobley, the main doubt is whether he truly has those unstoppable, highlight-worthy moments that define a defensive player of the year. Statistics are on his side, but highlights drive buzz, and buzz can determine votes. Meanwhile, Lou Dort is sometimes overshadowed by the entire Thunder roster's defensive culture, leaving people confused about whether he's the best or merely a cog in the machine. Dyson Daniels has the gaudy steal numbers, but critics argue that small sample success could fade as scouting reports focus on him. Even more interesting are the rumors swirling around these campaigns. Some insiders claim certain front offices quietly encourage media members to hype up their defensive standouts. Others whisper about minor injuries that could flare up and sideline a leading candidate right before the vote. Each rumor, each piece of hearsay injects a layer of drama that keeps fans glued to their screens, waiting for the next shoe to drop. It's easy to forget how huge the stakes are, not just for a player's resume, but also financially. Rookies like Evan Mobley could see their future earnings skyrocket if they bag a major award, thanks to clauses that can tack on millions more to their deals. Veterans like Draymond Green see another DPOY trophy as a powerful statement about their legacy. Winning once is special. Winning twice or more puts you in an elite club that cements a place in NBA history. It's no wonder Draymond openly admits he wants another one. Some folks argue that the hype machine hurts the spirit of the award, turning a quest for excellence into a popularity contest. Others insist that every player has the right to market themselves, especially when so much money and recognition are at stake. Whether you side with the purists or the promoters, the result is the same: a level of intensity that continues to build as the season winds down. If the story ended right now, Evan Mobley might take it home based purely on year-round steadiness. Or maybe Draymond's final surge, combined with his PR push, would capture voters' hearts. Then there's still time for somebody else entirely, like Dyson Daniels, Lou Dort, or a sleeper pick nobody sees coming, to leap into contention with a string of standout performances in the last stretch of the season. The margin of error is tiny. Just one off night or minor injury could turn the tide. That's the magic and madness of this season's Defensive Player of the Year race. It started as a foregone conclusion in favor of Wemby, until the 65-game rule slammed the door on his hopes. From there, multiple contenders charged in, each bringing a unique story that could decide the final result. On one side stands Evan Mobley, quietly consistent and absolutely vital to the Cavaliers' success. On the other side stands Draymond Green, broadcasting his determination for a second DPOY and stacking brilliant defensive moments on primetime broadcasts. Shadowing them are names like Dyson Daniels, Lou Dort, and others who might steal the crown with a timely burst of form. In the end, the voters must untangle stats from storytelling. They have to weigh hype against substance, spectacular last-minute plays against full-season impact, and media savvy against silent domination. The only certainty is this: the chase for Defensive Player of the Year just became one of the most unpredictable and entertaining awards races in recent memory. So, who's it going to be? The young gun with unstoppable energy, the vocal vet with a knack for dramatic finishes, or a dark horse few people saw coming? The season isn't over yet, and with every clutch steal, thunderous block, or defensive stand, the race tightens. Keep watching, because the next highlight play might be the very one that snatches the trophy and changes someone's career forever. Thank you so much for watching till the very end. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notification so you never miss our next upload.